Okay, our non-traditional events panel is going to be fascinating as well because we've got everything represented here from demo derbies to drifting to a guy who's pretty good at learning what I guess Elton John wants. And one of the most unique experiences you can have on a road course with the Track Night in America program, which I think is going to really help everybody running a road course by convincing people that they want to participate in this and have a good time. So on the far side there, Sherry Heckenist is the president of Team Demo Association out at the Route 66 Raceway. Sherry is a serial entrepreneur and grew up around cars with her family in the auto parts business. She's worn a lot of hats in the racing business as well. And the Team Demo Association, if you've never seen a demo derby event that Sherry puts on out there at the Route 66 Raceway in Joliet, it is a unique experience. Next up, Jim Liu, president of Formula Drift. Drifting has become so popular here in the United States, and Jim is probably the man more responsible than anyone else. He has built Formula Drift into the premier drifting championship, not only in the U.S., but in the world, and they are fresh off their 13th amazing season. Jason Rittenberry, we should have a gold star for you because you've got perfect attendance here at the Racetrack Business Conference, and now you're the Chief Strategy Officer at the Circuit of the Americas. Jason's been recognized for a lot of things. The top 40 under 40 list he's made both in Memphis and in South Florida, and also won the Innovator of the Year award last year right here at the Racetrack Business Conference, and very well known in the industry as a problem solver, and of course, as I mentioned, perfect attendance here. Hayward Wagner, a vice president with SCCA, and you run the Track Night in America program for them, among other duties that you'll explain. You grew up as one of those SCCA kids. You know, he was one of those brats who was always hanging around at the track. Your parents helped shape the flagging and communication culture of the club. You've been a racer yourself. You've worn a lot of different hats at the SCCA. You're a lifer. And just recently launched the very popular Track Night in America program that I found to be so interesting. So the first question I'm going to fire at Jason, because you're fresh off of some really cool events down there at the Circuit of the Americas when it wasn't raining cats and dogs, and had some great, you had a great concert event there with a rather famous musician. Do music events sell more racing tickets, or are standalone music events better? Try that again.
Hello, hello. There we go. Well, it depends on the artist, obviously. If it's going to sell more additional race tickets for you, or if you're just bringing in it as an added value. I think that's a big question all of us as promoters have to answer is the artist we're bringing in going to sell additional race tickets? And if the answer is you want that answer to be yes, then obviously you're going to have to pay for that. So you can bring a $5,000 local artist in. It's probably not going to sell you many tickets, but you can bring Elton John in, who's a little bit more than that, and it does sell you. It does sell you race tickets. And it really, I think it depends on what your overall goal with doing a concert event at your venue is. If it's to provide added value for your guests, if it's to improve your guest experience, if it's to keep people around to help with your egress so they're not all leaving at once, or if it really is to sell additional tickets to your race. And with Elton John and even some concerts that we've done in the past, or I've done it at other venues in the past, if you get those top artists, then it can be almost to the point where you're selling a concert ticket with a free race, or a race with a free concert ticket. And really, with Elton John, I can tell you we marketed it both ways. We marketed the race with Elton John as an added value, and we also went out to, say on the Ticketmaster and their concert database, we went after Elton John fans, and we had, I would say, 8,000 to 10,000 people that bought, that we know from depending the list that we sent out, we know bought Elton John only tickets that may not even come to the race. They could care less about the race. They want to see Elton John, so they bought. And that caused us even more logistical issues because now we've got, egress for a race taking place and ingress for 8 to 10,000 people coming in for an Elton John concert after the race. So it was interesting. Caused some logistical issues and challenges, but we made it through those. And so I think, to answer your question, Dennis, I know I talked a lot about other issues, but to answer your question is, I think if you really want it to sell you additional race tickets, it can. But just know you're going to take it's going to take a pretty high-level artist to be able to do that, but it can. I mean, I've seen it work, and it worked for us to the tune of, let's say, 8 to 10,000 tickets or so that we know that people came just for Elton John versus for the Formula One race.
Our next question, and this is kind of a different panel, but again, anyone who has something to add, please jump in a response. But these questions will be more specifically aimed at each person, and then we'll take your questions as well. And Sherry, as a media guy, of course, I'm cheap, and I don't buy tickets to events, race events usually. I go as press. Team demo, derby events, though, I'll be up. I have sat in the grandstands for those because they're fun. They're fun and entertaining and unique. But how much revenue does it take to make sure that you can make this a viable product?
Well, I'll say in our business, or I should say in our association, it's different. A bunch of you that were up here earlier were talking about purses and your average race purse. Our average purse for the team demos is $56,000. So when you look at that, it's a different venue. Like we've talked about before, different tracks have different scenarios and whatnot. I have to sell a minimum of 7,000 tickets just to pay the purse for my demo. So in order for us to get 10,000 people in there, we have to, we got to have, sometimes we have music, sometimes we don't, but our big thing is actually selling the Derby, and we do that well. But it's extreme. You've been there. It's one of a kind. But yes, $56,000 is a big purse to recover.
And they do an amazing job of promoting those events in local media in very clever ways to keep your promotion costs down, which, again, brilliant marketing because everybody knows about the events if they're anywhere near Joliet. Jim, drifting, the first time I saw it was out at Irwindale. I was down there for a racing event. You guys did a drifting exhibition. And I sat there shaking my head going, what in the hell am I watching? But I couldn't stop watching it. It was fascinating. Does it make sense for a venue that either a road course or even a drag strip or a circle track that's got space and has some dates that they want to fill, does it make sense to add what I like to call these action-style events like drifting? What is the ROI?
Yeah, for sure. I think generally speaking, if you have open dates and you want to add drifting activity to your calendar, it's definitely beneficial. I think you have to look at it from the perspective of, a lot of it's always about expectations, right? So I think because this is so new and people see things like, Fast and Furious and, hey, we're going to put something, quote unquote, drifting and, 5,000 young people are going to show up. Well, that's not going to happen. It may eventually happen, but from the get-go, it's not going to happen. I think it's understanding the dynamics of it. Are you doing it as a track night because there's a lot of enthusiasts that are looking for a venue, a safe place to be able to have a track night, to be able to drift, or is the appetite growing so that there's local organizations that are looking to stage competition events? And so there's different kind of phases, without getting into too much of the nuances, but there's different phases and different uses in terms of attracting drifting, in terms of incorporating drifting as a part of your calendar.
And the last question I'm going to ask until we throw it out to the audience. So if you've got a question, please raise your hand and I'll hustle a mic out to you. And that's for you, Hayward. I'm just amazed with what you've done with the Track Night in America program. I really think you're getting new, fresh people to the track that either didn't understand the culture or thought it was a closed society or whatever, but they're really enjoying this. So can you, first of all, tell folks a little bit about the event and how you came up with this idea, and also a little more information about how they might be able to host an event at their track?
Yeah, and I think Thank you for that. The core of what we're trying to do is open the gates. We talk a lot about millennials. We talk about a lot about millennials all getting trophies at the end of their soccer games and not getting competition. And motorsports, I feel like, has worked really hard at trying to get millennials into that competition box. But we haven't worked really hard at trying to build a box that works for millennials. And that's what Track Night's all about. It's quick. It's 4 hours of the track. We try to put it as close to population centers as we possibly can. It's affordable. It's a $150 experience for an hour of track time. But most importantly, we come at this from a very experiential, non-competitive viewpoint. And I think if you look at the success that drifting is having, a lot of that is because they're able to put together a product that is about the experience. It's not all about who takes home the big trophy. It's about the smoke and the show and the noise. And this is an opportunity to take an experience and be very different with it in a motorsports arena. Our first year, we hosted 89 events across the country. We were at 19 different venues. 45% of our participants were 35 years of age and younger. 50% of them drove bone stock cars, and 41% of them, lost my train of thought there. 41% of them signed up for our novice group. And so when we looked at this at the get-go, what we thought we would see is hardcore, tried-and-true track people that wanted more time, and SCCA members that wanted to try track that maybe been autocrossers or flaggers or crew. And we ended up connecting with a market that was 68% not our members. So the goal here is really creating that millennial-driven experience that is about fun and camaraderie and having people really get a connection with their car, with their track, and with motorsport.
Once again, thank every one of you up on the stage for coming. This is a non-traditional events we've had. It's been actually a recurring theme at a couple of these conferences. And what I think we're all seeing is really the diversity in the type of programming that can come to your facilities. Again, it's real estate, it's a stadium, it's there, and then we have to figure out how do we fill it, how do we use it for that. So one of the things I would like to do is, going to each one of your events, for us to go to Formula Drift out at SEMA this year and previous years, to go to some of the rally cross things, really what it comes down to, and I think our industry does a very good job, and for all of the promoters and people in this, is what can we do to be creative? One, it's fun to go through and do the programming, but I think there's a cost factor associated with that, because we do know that racing is important, and for us to then end up creating value both for the participants and to the fans. So a question for the panel is if you had to do it, would you have an ideal facility that you could host all of these, or is it a challenge to take your type of product to a new one and recreate? So, Sherry, I'll just ask you, Demo Derby, could you take that someplace else, or do you need a permanent facility to have it happen?
We could. This past season, we went out to the Lake County Fair and did a little bit of smaller version of Demo Derby there, and it worked out well. The problem is finding the drivers and the cars. It takes 116 70s round cars to put on one of these shows, and racing every 4 weeks at Route 66 is, that's our bread and butter. So it's hard to get these cars and drivers, but I think it's possible, but it's not going to be, you're not going to do it once a month at a local track.
For us, it's been really interesting. Currently, our championship series takes us from a street course. We use a portion of the Long Beach Grand Prix street course to a short track oval like Irwindale Speedway to a natural road course like Road Atlanta. So in terms of the sport, it's pretty adaptable in terms of just making sure that the turns connect and the judges can view the section that's being evaluated. But the trick to that is the other parts of it is that, well, where's fan seating? If I go to a road course that's on a hillside, is there enough fans seating and facilities that are available? Do we need to build temporary grandstands? Things like that, and then also the back end of it in terms of, is there enough paddock space? Is there enough festival space? Is there enough parking space to be able to handle the scale? Currently, we're gauging between the team paddock and the vendor sponsor activations, things like that. We're taking up anywhere from 200 to 300,000 square feet, preferably on pavement because everybody wants to complain about that. But that's kind of where we're at. I mean, ideally, to your point, I mean, unfortunately, we don't know about the future Irwindale Speedway, but Irwindale has become kind of a really great model because the seating is great, because you can see everything, because there's a paved infield that we can, maneuver and change course layouts, and the paddock space is, decent. Parking is limited, but that's kind of where we would be at.
Jim, do you ever get any sort of feedback from tracks or facilities that you're gonna ruin my place with the drifting event? Because you guys are pretty outrageous, I guess is the way to put it. Do you ever get any feedback like that?
Yeah, we get that all the time. And then now that we're going to foreign venues, we get that even more so. But I think kind of back to the previous kind of comment, I think it's about expectations. I think it's what product do you bring in, whether it's us on, say, on the pro level, or it's as a grassroots group, and then what do you want and don't want these participants to do. I think it's about, again, expectation and proper prep. But it doesn't look as destructive as it may seem. If you actually go and see it, you can see, again, kind of the control that the drivers have and the nuances and things like that. But again, it's about understanding what it is that you're bringing in and what parts of your facility that is best to house it, rather than kind of an open canvas, go wherever you want to go.
Hayward, I'm going to ask you the same question in a different way. Have you gotten any feedback from tracks of, hey, I don't want all these rookies out here?
Well, let me go to Tim's question first, and I'll come to that as far as what our needs are. We're pretty simple. Our job is to introduce people to their first racetrack. So while Mitch prioritizes flushing toilets, someone who's never been to a racetrack before doesn't have an expectation that a racetrack needs to have flushing toilets. So it's a fresh audience. There's a different set of expectations. So our primary focuses are, how close is this track to a population center? Can people leave work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, be on track by 4, be home by 9? Can they invite their friends to come out to our pace laps at 6 o'clock? At every track night event, we close the track down for 20 minutes at 6 o'clock so that people can take pace laps. We subscribe to a radical theory that the best way to get people really excited about driving on a racetrack is to let them drive on a racetrack. So we want to make sure that we have a place that we can take advantage of those types of things. As this program evolves, what we want to see is an opportunity to have the space to have a drifting demonstration, or to have a car corral, or to have a car club come out and have their meeting and their displays. We would really love to be partnered with racetracks that are interested in investing in things like Pinewood Derby tracks, so that we can invite local scout groups out to track night and have those kids have an active participation role in that event. And we'd also love to sell Pinewood Derby kits to track night participants so that during their 3 hours of downtime, they can go play with the kids on the Pinewood Derby track. To your question about experience, in a couple of parts of the country, it's been a huge stumbling block. There are racetracks that believe that there has to be a very stringent education component to getting people on track. We believe differently. We believe that there needs to be a very strong cultural component about getting people on track. We need to have people coming to the racetrack with a mentality that being safe is part of being the fun, that being a part of the culture and looking out for each other and helping each other out is a part of the fun of being on a track. We have a very strong, consistent message that the drivers, the officials, the flaggers, everybody that's at that track that evening is on the same team. There's one objective, and that objective is for everyone to have a good time and leave with their cars in a shiny and wrinkle-free condition. And so we talk about those things, and we rely on a very healthy lack of comfort for people to stay within their own abilities. We feel like putting somebody in the right seat of that car and encouraging them to drive faster than they might be comfortable is far more dangerous than really empowering them to stay within their comfort zone and drive in a manner that they feel is appropriate. And if they step over that appropriateness, that's why we have our professional coaches that come to every event. That's why we have flaggers who are watching every turn. We bring those guys in, we counsel with them, and we keep everybody working together.
Jason, for you, the question is can non-traditional events, you guys have hosted the X Games down there at Circuit of the Americas, musical events, all of those sorts of things. Can they help generate the free media that you need to help sell more race tickets, or are the crowds just too mutually exclusive?
Yes, absolutely. Any earned media you can garner from a non-traditional event is obviously going to be a positive for your venue. It's going to help build your brand. It's going to help get the word out about your venue, your future events, and if you can throw the dates of those future events in there, it's even better. But I do think that it does earn you enough additional media to run those, to host those additional non-traditional events at your venues. I've done a lot of non-traditional events at venues over the years, not so many at Circuit of the Americas because I haven't been there very long, but all those things that you could do, especially if you're partnering in the community, whether it's a charitable or a 5K or a color run or the circus. We've done the circus in the parking lot at COTA. Any of those things you can do that's going to garner additional exposure for your venue, whether it be with the media or whether it be with your community or whether it be with maybe organizations within those the circles of those events. Obviously, if you're running a 5K, or in Palm Beach we did a bicycle race on our road course. So other people that traditionally, very similar to the track night in America, bringing other people out to your venue that traditionally may not would come there for a motorsports event, I think is even more important than the earned media that you're garnering by hosting those. It's exposing new people to your venues, people that may not would purchase a ticket and come out to your venue.
Sherry, how much different are your team demo fans versus traditional dirt racing fans or circle track race fans?
Well, I think you know that. Extremely different. They sort of have a cult following behind them. I think I would consider the Derby people to be like the WWF world. They kind of go together, but they're all, same type. But we do a lot of non-traditional things there, not just so much non-racing, but just the extra entertainment we add to it and whatnot. It's not just the racing, but what comes with it on race day, pre-race party. Somebody talked about bringing value, and does it cost money? We have a form on our website that it just says the Battle of the Bands. Go ahead and sign up your band if you want to, premiere your band in front of thousands of people for free. And here we have a pre-race party with all kinds of entertainment that didn't cost us anything. So it just depends. But are the fans different? Absolutely.
How long did it take you to really understand the fans for team demo?
I recently just took the track over in terms of a long-term lease, and before I was just a promoter, so I can't say I went to the front of the house very often. And now that I do that, it's been very enlightening. It's very different even from the driver's perspective to the fan perspective. But talking about outhouses, I think I have 60 outhouses every race, and it's just crazy the different environments that we're all in. But I think if I had regular bathrooms and got rid of my outhouses, I think my demo derby people would not be happy. So, we're in different worlds.
They are a real unique bunch. I will tell you that. And actually, I think the fact that your fans are so unique is actually part of the entertainment of being in an event is the people watching.
I mean, we race at 7:15, but actually open up at 4 o'clock, and the parking lots are full at 4 o'clock with people tailgating and pre-race party. Just the environment that has been built over the years, but it's definitely an experience.
Jim, your events out at Irwindale. How many real circle track fans do you end up converting when you guys do a demonstration? Because you got me hooked.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of cross-promotional demonstrations in terms of like being a part of other racing events, at least the last few years. But yes, in the I would say early days, but in the scope of things, we're still fairly new. But yeah, we did a lot of demonstrations. We went to Champ Car races. We went to nationwide, regional NASCAR races. We went wherever it was. People invited us, and yeah, we definitely had some crossover. But I think. Now looking back at it and kind of understanding our audience a little bit better and where we're growing it, it's not so much about converting fans, I would say. Just like do these events attract new people to your facility, things like that. I think a lot of it's about education. I think there's a lot of misnomers about drifting as a sport, because what you see maybe in a parking lot grassroots event compared to, say, what we're doing is very different. And so, same thing. It's like, people have, and a lot of young people too, I may play, Gran Turismo on my PlayStation. I may have a fix-up car, but I've never been to a racetrack. And so a lot of it is a misperception of, or an intimidation of, I've never been to a race. I've never been to a racetrack. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And so, I kind of relay our demonstrations as that too, is that just to use it as an educational platform, and then, the tangents and the derivatives of that come with it.
Hayward, instead of talking about fans, we're talking about competitors, and you've had now a chance to sort of understand your competitors, your new competitors to the Track Night in America program. How many of them do you think you'll be able to convert into hardcore SCCA members for regular track days? Or is that Track Night in America program so unique that it's going to be hard to see the crossover?
I have absolutely no idea. We've just finished our first year, and 68% of our participation was not reported as not being a member of any motorsports organization before participating with us. We didn't expect that. We did offer membership with registration, and about 1 in 10 people who weren't members became members through the program. So that's a pretty significant first step. But we're not really thinking of this program as necessarily a direct pathway to SCCA membership. We're thinking of this program as an opportunity to get in the gate. And if you get in the gate, and if all you want to do is track night, great. But what we're really hoping for is that we can bring SCCA regions out that can show their autocross cars, their club racing cars, that can bring out their flagging communications captains and chiefs, that can talk about the ability to get involved in club race volunteer work, that can bring out rallycross opportunities, that we can partner with other organizations. We've talked with several of the professional racing organizations about having their teams come out and bring cars for display. We want there to be a point in time where, in this cars and coffee-like environment of motorsports excitement at a track, that it clicks, what else can I do? Or, hey, I think I'm pretty good at this. I think I'd like to compete. How do I do that? And if we can have those questions start to be asked at our events, then we have the opportunity to convert them to members and move them up the ladder. But if the first rung on the ladder is all about climbing, that's not in a very attractive place to be. And we want to make this the most attractive place we can possibly make it, so the people who do just want to have this experience has the best experience they can possibly have within it. As far as numbers and conversions and whatnot, the biggest shift we saw this year, the first 3 months of the program, we took all of the traditional marketing terms and went after those. We tried to find people that were driving the right cars, that had the right hobbies, that had the right interests that we thought would set them up for this. And we did okay. In June, we employed a full-time person to run a champions program, and that person went out to forums, to car clubs, to student groups, to Formula SAE teams, and found an influencer in those environments and gave that influencer a discount code. And that code could get anybody into a track night event for $25 off. And every 10th time that code got used, that person's individual code, they got into track night for free. And we almost doubled our participation by that activation, by having influencers, champions go out, talk about how great these events are, giving them the materials to be able to get the word out about it, and then having them incentivized to do that. We're talking about a $150 retail price point. That's a very low investment in getting 10 new people to our event.
What's the best strategy that y'all have? And I'm going to throw this out as the toss-up question for $50. Two of you have an advantage because you've got the microphone. The other two have to wrestle for it. What's the best advice that you could give as far as how to promote a non-traditional event? Do you have to think in different terms, or is it just all the same sort of tools of social media and whatnot? What is your best advice to someone who's just running a non-traditional event for the first time and wants to know how to reach that unique market?
I think for me, the best advice is that social media and email campaigns and all of these things that we have gotten very comfortable with and very used to and very familiar with and have become easy things for us to do are easy things for everyone to do. And the difference makers become when you're willing to work harder than anybody else to get your message out there. Going personally and talking to the parts store or the car dealership, getting that poster hung, getting your brand, your image in as many places as you possibly can, so that it becomes something that people identify with. That's what our Champions program was all about, and we found our best results were. It's important that when people go to their social media networks and their web pages, that they see a logo, that they're reminded of it, that they stay connected to it, that it stays fresh in their mind. But it's their buddy who's going to call them and say, "Hey, we should go do this." That's actually going to get them to spend the dollars to do it.
Sherry, for your events, and you do get good crowds, are those the same people coming every week, or do you just, can you even gauge that? Because I see some short tracks that, I see the same 1,500 people every weekend, and I don't see fresh faces. Are you reaching a lot of people, or you just have a hardcore group?
We have about 4,000 people. That I would say is the hardcore group, and the rest we're obviously advertising to and getting in new blood. And we have figure eight car and trucks involved as well to try and bring in new drivers and new fans and different things. But back to your question prior about the advertising and whatnot. Obviously, all the social media and all that works, but from a promoter standpoint, I've used the adjective of let's have a low-cost show the first time, put on a good show, and when people are leaving, they're talking about it, and that's our advertising every year after. So it's our job as the promoter that they're leaving talking about what we did, and that's the best advertising for the next year. Our monster truck race, I think our first race we had maybe 2,000 people. The second one, 4 or 5, and then last year we were just about sold out for the first time. So, and it's not. I mean, we spend a decent dollar on advertising. We do all the social media stuff. We do, all the regular stuff that anybody else would do. I think we're a little bit more creative in different ways because of what we're advertising. But for the most part, is putting on a show that people want to talk about, and want to come back and see.
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I think social media is a simple and cheap and easy way to communicate. I think it's about what it is you're bringing in, what your target audience is, and understanding that demographic and be authentic to it. I mean, just don't do Twitter just for the sake of doing Twitter because everybody talks about it and all these new platforms that are coming out. If the target audience that you're going after isn't there, there's no point being there. But I totally agree with Sherry that it's about kind of starting out simple and keeping your expectations real and just really delivering a great experience so that when they walk away, the best thing is that someone brings their friends back because they had such a great experience.
Jason, you've dealt with a lot of different kinds of racing, and now an amazing facility in Circuit of the Americas. Are you finding that what worked at past places you help promote and work with, are you finding that the same things are working across the board, or are you finding different tools work better down there in Texas?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's being down there in Texas. I would say it's marketing to Formula One and MotoGP fans versus IHRA drag racing fans or NASCAR fans. So a lot of the tools obviously are the same. A lot of the marketing, advertising, social media, like everyone's spoken about already, a lot of those are the same. But you definitely we're marketing to a different group of demographics, a totally different clientele level of fan versus what we were or what I have been in the past at some other venues. So the tools are the same, yes, but the way you have to reach them and the message is obviously going to be different. And so I've been able to use some things that have worked for me in the past, and some we've had to. I've learned the different way, the COTA way, obviously, right now, of how to market to a Formula One or a MotoGP or even a World Endurance Challenge, or so different types of marketing to reach those different groups. Absolutely.
Okay, it's time for our final closing statements. So we're going to start at the end. Ladies first. Sherry.
I guess I would say my piece of advice would be talking about non-traditional would be like anybody else. I've made enough mistakes, lost enough money to learn from them, but being